Topic here, September 11th from In the Plains. Here we see an image of all of the 9/11 hijackers, all 19 of these individuals. We're going to first start off with the 3 members of the Hamburg cell right here. All 3 of these individuals lived with each other in Hamburg, Germany, or spent time in Hamburg, Germany. This individual would come into the group later on. Let's see. We have Saudi nationals to point out that these individuals come from Saudi Arabia. For the most part, the majority of the 9/11 hijackers are from Saudi Arabia. So this screencast is primarily about the We Have Some Planes chapter, which is a play-by-play account of what happens inside the planes. Here we see the 4 various planes. We're trying to create a timeline for Flight 11, 175, 77, and 93. 11 is the North Tower, South Tower, Pentagon. And this is the one that crashes. So for the most part, you're going to be reporting what is found in your particular reading, which is from the 9/11 Commission report. So we're going to begin with the boarding of the flights. Prior to 9/11, people were asked a series of screening questions at the gate to determine whether or not they potentially would be a security risk. In the 9/11 Commission report, we see that some of the 9/11 hijackers were flagged, and that was going to potentially be an issue that was going to raise some concern. Some of the individuals did not have any photo identification. Some of the individuals are not able to answer the questions because they're not able to speak the language. And the only security check here is that their bags were held off of the plane until it was confirmed that they boarded the aircraft. Looking here at Flight 77, here's in red, we see those people struggling with the ID. These individuals flagged by CAPS. So for the most part, all 5 of the 9/11 hijackers from Flight 77 on some way were people that were identified as potential risk or some sort of issue. Yet they were still allowed to go through the security measures and still able to proceed. Here we are looking at flight that crashes into the Pentagon, Flight 77, and very similar to the other 9/11 hijackers. The individuals were able to board the flight, pass through security checks, did not trigger any alarms. If you did a YouTube search for these individuals and just type in 9/11 airport security footage, and you would be able to see these individuals as they walk through the security, get their bags, and are still able to board the flight. This image here, just showing you where the hijackers were seated in the plane, and for the most part, there was a method in place. Here you see the pilot in this particular seat. Notice how they are all in the front of the plane, and the plan here involves secure the cockpit. If that is secure, then bring the pilot on board and normally have some people to the rear, and these individuals would spray mace, and the mace would force people to the rear of the plane. Here we see Flight 11, and we notice kind of a similar pattern where you have people to the rear, and again, those people were designed to, in those seats, selected so that they can spray the mace and force people once again to the rear. So Muhammad Atta contacts Al-Shihi prior to the flight, and confirmation about the plan that is about to take place. Here you see a security cam of Muhammad Atta, able to go through the security check. United 175, again, difficulty answering questions, yet still able to make it on board the flight. One of the things in common that the pilots were able to shut off the transponders, which means you are not going to be able to find these planes once they were in the air. So again, imagine, here you see the difference from first class. So you'd want to, run people to the front of the plane, get control of the cockpit, force these, passengers behind as a result of the use of the MACE product. For flight 11 crashing into the North Tower, for the most part, their story is known through the work of Betty Ong. She was a flight attendant on board the flight, and she's actually on the plane speaking to the people on the ground in the control tower, explaining what's happening. She's the one saying that somebody has sprayed mace, somebody was stabbed in first class. So when we look here, from her reports, the belief here is that these individuals move to the front to try to gain control of the cockpit. They stab a flight attendant. This individual starts to realize something is going on, and Mr. Lewin decides to get up, chasing Muhammad Atta, who is the pilot, and apparently Al-Suqami is behind him. So if we go back to, let's see, their seating arrangement right here, you see, Muhammad Atta, then you see Suqami here. So as these individuals, take control of the cockpit, stab a flight attendant, this guy's about to, get up, Muhammad Atta, and he's going to be followed by Lewin, who is right here. Then Lewin will then be stabbed by this guy here. So it's off as far as the coloring codes there. So that's kind of what's going on, what's being reported in the 9/11 Commission report. The flight, the flight recording. If you did a YouTube search for Betty Ong, you would be able to listen to the entire call that she has on the ground. I am not uploading that because I've already done the screencast twice, and YouTube has flagged it. So hopefully not having any links, not having any of that audio avoids the flag. Here's another interesting point here. The title, "We Have Some Planes," comes from a flight recording that's released after 9/11. So again, if you did a YouTube search for 9/11 audio recordings of Muhammad Atta, you can hear him keying the mic. And what that means is that Muhammad Atta is flying the plane, accidentally hits the mic, thinking he's communicating with the people in the plane, and he's actually communicating not just with the people in the plane, but also the people on the ground. And he says, "We have some planes, stay quiet and you'll be okay." And the people on the ground hear that message, and they're wondering, what was that? Was that the pilot? What's going on? And that delay, they can't figure it out up until the point when Flight 11 hits the North Tower, and then the confirmation when 175 hits the South Tower, that this seems to be some sort of attack. But if you looked up that, you could listen to, again, the audio recordings that were released after 9/11. Try to picture yourself in the flight control, and your job is to just look at all of the planes. So this is an image of all the planes on September 11th. Again, YouTube has a really good, video that, is the released, I guess, government radar video footage that they have of all the planes that were in the sky. I want to say it was like 3,500 planes were in the air on 9/11. And then if you watch the video, you slowly see the amount of planes kind of dwindle down to when all flights were grounded. Here we see the targets. Now, the North Tower, which is hit by Flight 11, and you'll know the North Tower because of the antenna. The only video footage of that comes from the documentary 9/11 by the Naudet brothers. They were filming a documentary about New York firefighters, and they are on a call. And again, if you looked up Naudet brothers 9/11 on YouTube, you would be able to see the actual footage of Flight 11 going into the North Tower. Notice the height, which is very different from 175. In this image, you see the South Tower about to get hit from the south side by Flight 175. You see the North Tower on fire. Flight 175 comes in at a higher speed, and it comes in on an angle. And the story of Lee Hansen is calling home. He is on board the Flight 175, which is about to crash into the South Tower, and this is the message that the conversation that he's having with his dad. And his dad, at 9 o'clock, turns on the television, and he's able to see within that 2 to 3 minutes his son lose his life. And that's the story of Lee Hansen there. This image, you see the area that's NORAD and NEADS, which are referenced in the 9/11 Commission reports, and these are the government bodies that are working to try to piece together what's happening. Here you see a timeline of some of the events that are going on. Takeover of the flight around 8:14. 8:46 is when the North Tower is struck. 8:14 is when 175 is taking off. The New York City, New York suspects a hijacking at this point. Here you see 77 and 93. This is actually from security footage from a parking garage, parking lot. So if you looked up on YouTube Flight 77 parking lot, you would be able to see the footage of 177 going into the plane, into the building, the Pentagon. And here you see a simulation. This one's pretty interesting. There are a couple of them on YouTube. If you did a YouTube search for Flight 93, 3D animation and recording, you would be able to hear, again, some of the audio files that were released later on, and you would be able to see some 3D animation that shows what the possibly happened before 93 had crashed. We have the likely takeover. So this is right around the time when the North Tower was already struck at 8:46. They're probably trying to figure out what's going on. By 9:05, at that point, the South Tower had already been hit at 9:03. So, there's, I guess, confirmation. All right, this has to be some sort of hijacking. And then at 10:30, Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. 8:42. So we're about 11 minutes away before the North Tower about to get hit. 93 is taking off, and by 10:15, there's the recognition that this plane has crashed into the Earth. And that's it.